Well, this took a dark turn. Brace yourself. In this video, I'll be talking about how Canada went from a simple tax farm and resource colony into one of the world's most complex organ harvesting operations. Ladies and gents, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Clyde. Welcome to the channel. The subscribe button is just down below there. Go hit that and we'll get right into this story. Now, I put this out on Twitter. I said, you're more likely to be killed by your government in Canada than by a gun in America. Let that sink in. And believe me, a lot of people were doubting that as a legitimate statistic. It's actually a legitimate statistic. Here it is. Jeremy putting this out there, retweeting this, saying this is actually correct. In 2024, 343 people died with medically assisted suicide in Canada. That's right, the medical assistance in dying in Canada. And in the US, 44,400 roughly died from guns. So in Canada, 1 in 20 who died from medical assistance in dying in 2024. And in the US, 1 in 90 died as a result of guns out of those who died. So if you look at all those people that say, be afraid of America, they got guns, and lots of people are dying. More people are dying in Canada at the hands of the government. And that's actually a fact. Euthanasia is the 5th leading cause of death in Canada. Now, stick around to the end of the video because a lot of people are saying, well, Clyde, you don't choose to be shot by a gun. People are signing up for euthanasia. Well, we're going to get into the dark side of this and how this actually isn't the choice of people. So stick around to the end of the video because we're going to get into that. Now, on the little bit of lighter side, yeah, this satirical sign here saying, doctor, waiting room, if you die whilst on the list, while on the waiting list, see the doctor, please cancel your appointment because you might delay things for other people. I know in Canada, Canadians are very proud of the socialized medical system and boast about it, how it's so much worse in other places without actually seeing how it is in other places. The reality is a lot of people are, while on these waiting lists, are being pressured into opting for euthanasia. That's correct. A lot of people are doing this, and this isn't the only thing that's happening in Canada. In fact, people's charity is being used against them, as we've seen recently in headlines. Blood donors surprised to find out that that's right, that blood you've been donating to help save people who maybe got in a car accident in Canada, or perhaps they need it because they're having a surgery and it requires blood transfusions, or perhaps what have you. It's for Canadian people that need it and are in need, so you donate your blood. Well, it turns out the Spanish drug maker is taking that free blood and making pharmaceutical products out of it and turning a huge profit. In fact, if you think this fringe stuff that you've never heard of, well, here's conservative MP Dan Mazier tweeting about this and even making a video on it. The Liberals refuse to explain why foreign companies are quietly cashing in on Canadian blood donations without donors even knowing about it. I think you'd want to know about it if you're giving away your blood for free and people are making a profit. They're turning a profit overseas. It's not even going into the Canadian economy even. That's crazy. But let's get back to the story of euthanasia and how this is taking a strange and dark turn. Well, Canada is turning its assisted suicide regime into an organ donation supply chain. That's right. This is something that ethicists have warned that harvesting organs from euthanized patients could result in pressuring people to opt for death so that their organs can be used by those with a better prognosis. And when people are on a giant waiting list for organ donation, what do you think's going to happen? We've heard about this kind of thing happening and the ethics of what's been going on with Uyghur Muslims and the Falun Gong in China, which they're very hush-hush about. We can't talk about that. And if we brought this up even in the Canadian news, we'd have, because there's a lot of pressure coming from China to be quiet about this. Here, Camus on X saying Canada has achieved a grim medical milestone, the world's first successful heart transplant from a patient euthanized via MAID. 38-year-old man with ALS was lethally injected. Just 7 minutes after his heart stopped, it was reanimated, transported to the United States, and transplanted. This marks a terrifying new frontier in organ donation after euthanasia, UDE, as it's called. It's so commonplace in discussions that they actually have an acronym for it, where Canada is now a world leader. The numbers are exploding. 136 of 286 global UDE cases by 2021 were Canadian. 5% of all organ transplants in Canada in 2024 used organs from the euthanized. Medical reports themselves warn of the concern. Patients who feel they are now a burden may now feel pressured to do something meaningful with their death. The desire to donate can become a driver for the request to die. We are normalizing a pathway where the most vulnerable are harvested to save others. This isn't just about one life-saving transplant. It's about the ethical cost to a society that creates a system where death becomes a utility. And it gets even more grim. Here's a discussion on, this is crazy, from the NIH. Personalism and boosting organ reservoirs, and you'll see what this ERVO in the reservoirs stands for. A consideration of euthanasia by removal of vital organs in the Canadian context. Now, this is talking about ERVO. What is ERVO? It's euthanasia by removal of vital organs. Right? We're not. This isn't euthanasia, all on its own. This is the idea of euthanizing people by removing their organs. It is a theoretical extension of the medical assistance in death with an increased plausibility of implementation in light of the rapid expansion of assisted death eligibility laws and criterias in Canada. Wow, they're just making it super easy for people to go into medical assistance in dying that they're even talking about this. ERVO entails removing organs from a living patient under general anesthesia as the mechanism for death. That's right, they're talking about this. Hey, how can we utilize what people are, they're dying anyway, so why don't we get into that? Avery's, this is where it gets really, really crazy, because organ donation is no longer in Canada. It's quickly becoming something you don't even opt into. This is something you're automatically opted into, and you have to opt out if you want them not to harvest your organs. Perhaps if you're just fighting for your life and then they're going, I don't know if he's going to make it. Imagine that. Imagine that discussion over your body as you're trying to survive perhaps an accident or an injury or something. And you have people chomping at the bit to see what they can get out of you. This is news from back in 2023. Avery's Law makes organ tissue donation automatic in New Brunswick, with some exceptions, of course. Province becomes the second jurisdiction in Canada after Nova Scotia to move to this model. This is something that's happening all over the place, and believe you me, if it's happening over there, it seems that the test cases are always in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick kind of thing. They're about to take everybody's guns away. They're starting over there. So they're starting with all this other stuff. Test it there, bring it everywhere else. New Brunswick moves towards deemed consent, organ and tissue donation. Change is expected to take at least 2 years to implement, but this is something that's going to happen. This is a dangerous, slippery slope and dangerous territory. Now let's get into exactly what's going on with this and what are the ethics around this. Now this is AP, not exactly the most left-leaning news outlet, but not the most right-leaning news outlet, but this is what they had to say. Disturbing. Experts are troubled by Canada's euthanasia laws. Now, this is the story of Mr. Alan Nichols. Alan Nichols had a history of depression and other medical issues, but none were life-threatening. When the 61-year-old Canadian was hospitalized in June 2019 over fears he might be suicidal, he asked his brother to bust him out as soon as possible. Within a month, Nichols submitted a request to be euthanized, and he was killed despite concerns raised by his family and a nurse practitioner. Now, they wrote the story, and this is the testimonial of Trish and Gary Nichols, the relatives, the brother and wife of the brother of this man. And this is the story. Our brother Alan Nichols received medical assistance in dying, assisted suicide in July 26, 2019, when MAID was still reserved for those whose death was foreseeable. So someone who was imminently about to die. Alan did not meet the MAID criteria. He did not even have a foreseeable death. He struggled with recurrent mental health issues, but always recovered. June 16th, 2019, Alan was placed unwillingly in an ambulance, taken to Chilliwack Hospital, admitted under the Mental Health Act for his own safety and protection after a neighbor called the RCMP for a wellness check. Jerry flew from Edmonton to see Alan that very day. Alan asked Gary to bust him out, but Gary thought he would be safer in the hospital and to get the help that he needed. My husband lives each day now with the deep regret for making the decision to trust the wellness to a medical facility. Now, TLDR, this story was, they put him into this situation where he was admitted into, and I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can read this for yourself. But he was admitted for MAID, for medical assistance in dying, and the only thing that they listed on the medical assistance in dying application was hearing loss. That's correct. They signed him up for MAID. It doesn't appear that he signed himself up. In fact, he wanted to get out because he knew that this would be bad for him. Now, do you think that this is the only case of this that's ever come out? No. It keeps happening all the time in Canada. RCMP called to investigate multiple cases of veterans being offered medically assisted death. Veterans Affairs Minister Lawrence McCauley apologizes for appalling interactions. That's right. This is not just one case. This is many cases of people who are veterans that were seeking help because they served the country. They saw horrible things and they needed help for their emotional status. And they were offered medical assistance in dying. Not just medical assistance in dying for that, but there was a case where there was a woman who was a veteran and she was also a Paralympian swimmer. She needed a chair that would take her up to the second floor in her building. And she was waiting for that. She was calling up to ask, where's my chair? They offered her euthanasia in response to that. More stories here. Father asks court to stop 27-year-old daughter's MAID death, review doctor's sign-off. So a father was concerned that his daughter was about to commit this act. What was the thing? Daughter has autism and won't disclose reason she was approved for MAID. This is crazy. And then obviously being opted in to this kind of medical situation where her organs will be harvested right after. More cases. She went into the hospital with suicidal thoughts. A clinician raised medically assisted death. This is what's happening across Canada. If you got to see the writing on the wall and for what it is, and this is why I tweeted this out. Canada has graduated from a simple tax farm and resource colony to a complex organ harvesting operation. Congratulations, Canada. Congratulations, absolutely. This is where we're at in this whole scenario. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Leave a comment if you have a story of you being offered this, or perhaps you have insight on somebody who's been offered this, or perhaps whatever you have to say on this is just an unbelievable conversation, a big thing. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Leave a comment down there, and we'll see you all in the next one. Keep on trucking.